In Between is a new Paramount Plus movie that dropped today on Paramount Plus and is about this girl who basically she's someone who's had a trouble upbringing. She goes from foster home to foster home, has a hard time, dealing with a lot of stuff. And one day she meets this guy, she falls in love with him, he gets a car accident and he dies. But then she soon starts realizing, hey, he might be trying to connect with me from the afterlife. So that's kind of what this title is referring to when you go to the in-between. In-between is in between life and death kind of thing. So, yeah, this movie has more of a unique plot than I would say for most romantic movies that come out nowadays. But it still feels very generic, which is unfortunate. This actress, I forget her name, but she is very much in a lot of Netflix generic rom-com type movies, right? And this feels like a mixture of those and The Fault in Our Stars. And my issue with The Fault in Our Stars, if you don't know, I really hate that movie. That is one of my most hated films, and that's because there are people who will watch that movie and cry. And they'll cry not because the film earns that level of sadness. It's because the story's about cancer and they go in expecting to cry. I think a lot of people do that. They go in expecting, hey, this is about the subject. Oh, I'm going to be sad. So they cry automatically. And I'm not saying I don't cry at movies. I cry at lots of movies. But I think that when you go in expecting to cry and be sad, it does I feel like it shows that the movie itself isn't strong enough that it will actually make you cry on its own. I mean, a movie like this, I'm looking at it going, these performances are just fine. They're not great. They're fine. They're just acceptable. The story is acceptable. The way the movie looks, is fine. It just looks fine. It very much feels like a TV movie, that kind of thing. It doesn't, yeah, I mean, it's a fine, acceptable movie, but you know that a certain audience will watch this movie and be all heartbroken and sad because, oh my gosh, that guy died. But to me, it's like the movie needed to do more to get me to feel, right? The movie needed to have stronger performances, have better writing, and all these things to get me there. And it just doesn't. This movie is also way too long. It's almost 2 hours. And I'm sorry, for most these types of movies, the most I'll accept is an hour and 30, maybe an hour and 40 if you really need it. And if the movie's really strong, sure, go to 2 hours. But this is not a really strong movie. This is a movie with fine, acceptable performances. The movie looks okay, just kind of TV movie-ish and a little too bright. But it's just no. It's just unfortunate because I want this genre movie to come back, this kind of romantic genre movie. But it's you watch this movie and you're watching it and you're looking at it going, what is this? Why do they all have to feel the same? This has a different plot from Fault in Our Stars, but yet it feels the exact same as Fault in Our Stars. This has a different plot from most Netflix generic rom-com movies, yet it feels the exact same, and it just gets so tired and boring. You're just why make something interesting? That's why this genre is dead and only exists on streaming for the most part, is because you watch these movies and you watch them on streaming because they're not good enough to keep your attention any longer than the 5 days after you watch them on streaming or whatever. Just worthless.